Hi, everybody. Welcome to the April 15th, 2016 edition of Colorado Inside Out. I'm your host, Dominic Dezzutti. Thank you very much for joining us. Let's get a quick take on the shooting of an unarmed suspect during a lunch hour traffic stop by Denver police, which has renewed conversations about when to use deadly force. While the suspect was unarmed, police reported the suspect made, quote, a threatening type maneuver. Pat Cahoon from Westward, you have a lunchtime shootout near downtown Denver. This was bound to make some news, even if it was handled correctly. What did you think of how everything went down?
Well, first of all, anyone trying to park at Civic Center at lunchtime is going to make threatening maneuvers. So that is not really a good excuse. This guy was not on a high-speed chase. He had not just killed somebody. You know, there was a warrant out, but there was no reason to have action that dramatic in a crowded area. I mean, you're firing how many shots? I think it was 7. And there are people all over that area at that time. Wrong time, wrong place.
David Kopel from the Penn Institute and DU Law School. From what we know so far, because it's surely an ongoing investigation, what do you think of the reaction?
The police were right in every respect, as I see it. This is a guy who the warrant was for armed robbery using a handgun of a bank. They were following him, and it's important to get a guy like that off the street soon because he's an armed, violent criminal based on his past behavior. When he parked, the spouse and child got out of the car, which created a small window where they could try to take him without endangering those other innocent people. They surrounded him, or had him on different sides. For a minute, they were ordering him, you know, hands up, get out of the car, those kinds of things. He had ample opportunity to surrender peacefully. Instead of doing that, while he's in the car, he makes a move. The lawfulness of police use of force by the Supreme Court's Graham v. Condor decision is judged on what a reasonable officer would believe under the circumstances. Under those circumstances, an armed, violent felon making a move you can't see after you've been telling him for a minute to surrender and he doesn't, you would be recklessly endangering yourself, not to account for the possibility that he's going for a gun. They shot him accurately. No one else was hit. All of the violence that resulted was entirely his fault and his choice based on his behavior.
Eric Sonderman, political analyst, even if it was by the book, and I have no reason to dispute everything that David had said, does the Denver police need to get out ahead of this somehow? Like, it's not really ahead of it, but do some explanation of the different policies from at least the way the optics look?
There'll be a time for that, and this will all come out. David might be right, but I put the emphasis on the word might, and we do not yet know. Clearly, this was a bad guy. I happened upon the scene. I was coming down. It was a half hour after the fact, and coming down Bannock, and obviously traffic was diverted, and half the cops in Colorado were on the scene at that point in time. If you're judging this as an individual case, you might come to one conclusion. If you're putting it in a broader context of everything, of all the other instances this city has lived through over the last months and years, then it leads you to perhaps ask more questions. The bottom line is he did not have a gun. Obviously, the police officers had no way of knowing that at the time. He hadn't voluntarily gotten out of the car to be searched. Who knows what this maneuver was, and hopefully through investigations we will find out what the supposed maneuver was. Of one thing you can be fairly sure, he will not be prosecuted because no cops in Denver under the current district attorney and the current DA's office are prosecuted. So you can probably go to the bank on that one. I'm not suggesting the cops should be prosecuted, but given that they never are, it is a safe bet.
Natasha Gardner, senior editor of 5280 Magazine. You've done a lot of coverage of the Denver police, all the different issues that go into that we've been talking about as a community for a long time. Do we need more education about some of the policies that the police follow in a situation like this for greater understanding of situations that we've just seen happen this week?
I think absolutely. Unfortunately, the time when we think about that, about doing that, is usually after an event had happened. I would love to see some more proactiveness by the city and by the police, by the DA's office, to explain the process of what happens when a firearm is used by a police officer, because it is a very complicated process. You know, I've actually stood in the DPD DPD's simulator when they have instances like this, what might count as a threatening maneuver. So I have a very small sense of how difficult understanding those moments can be. And anyone who wants to have their own chance at that, I mean, Google it. There's plenty of simulations where you can see how difficult it is to see what sort of event is occurring. So I don't want to take anything away from the difficultness of the police's work. However, I am extremely concerned any time that this moves out of the legal process. And what I mean by that is right now this person is dead. What he should be doing is moving through our legal system. He should be potentially being charged, being processed, being moved through to a court trial. Instead, there's been a death sentence, and I know some people will find that that is a very harsh interpretation of what happened, but it is. He's dead instead of going through the legal process. So I think it's important for the community to always look at, okay, what was our involvement in that? And that involvement is the police that we employ and those police that are there to protect us and how they do their job. So this is not the last we're going to hear of this, but I would, as I said at the beginning, like the city to be a little more proactive in explaining how these situations actually occur.